Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Gorse, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey of remembering our divine nature and tapping into the truths that shall set us free. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm super excited to welcome Jason Shurka on the podcast today and talk about all the wonderful things he is doing in the world of healing and find out more about him. We got connected through my friend Diane Chandler, a little shout out. But I'm going to let him tell us what he's doing because I'm really excited about it. So Jason, welcome to Heal with Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me on your platform.
Yeah.
There's a lot, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of different things that are being done. Just to give you a little background, I come from the real estate world, actually. So my family is in commercial real estate all around the world. They've been doing it for about 45 years. And that's what I grew up knowing, while also having a family side hobby of alternative medicine. So we were always into it. And there was this whole sort of education process that we went through. And that's how I grew up. So I was born and raised with that knowingness, if you want to call it, through being taught that at a young age. So I was always on this side of the equation. I was never on the other side. And I was very inspired through what I would learn throughout my childhood, specifically seeing what my mother and father were doing in the health realm, not professionally speaking, just out of a hobby and passion. It inspired me to want to bring that to more people around the world. So I made a tough decision about 5 years ago or so to leave the family business, and they were counting on me to take over. So it kind of shook the boat and rocked the boat a lot. But in hindsight, it was the best decision I've ever made. It was very scary at the time. And ever since, I started reading a lot. I started writing a few books. I'm an author of, I think, about 5 books today, mostly focused on health, wellness, spiritual ascension, expansion, but from a scientific perspective. So instead of just saying things, how do we know that these things actually work? And what is the backing to those things as well, to bridge the gap between science and spirituality? Because they really are the same thing, expressed in different ways and understood differently. So I started doing that. Then I founded an organization called UNIFYD World, and I created 2 projects. So project number 1 is called UNIFYD TV. It's raising awareness through media. So think about it like a spiritual form of Netflix. And UNIFYD Healing is a network of wellness centers. I started that about 2 years ago, that project. And in 2 years, we've opened about 440 locations in 55 countries around the world with a technology called the Energy Enhancement Systems. So that's really what I do today.
Yes, and that is how I'm so fascinated by the EES, I guess is the short way of saying Energy Enhancement Systems. So if we, heretofore refer to it as EES, that's what we mean. But I'd love for you to dive into how you got connected to the inventor of that technology and a little bit of that backstory, because opening 440 centers in 2 years, I mean, we're going to get to the business side of that too. That's just phenomenal. Sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what I will say is, and we can touch up on that later, I don't own any of these centers. I helped facilitate the opening. Every center has an individual owner, and those owners really made all of that happen. I'm the guy that came to, that market, that world, if you want to call it, and created a system to make it easier to do that. And that's how we facilitated the opening of so many around the world with the help of EE System and their team as well. So what was your question again?
How did you connect with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who invented this incredible technology? And then we'll get into what it is, actually.
Sure. So she invented this technology in 1996. To make a long story short, there are a few people that I work with, very amazing individuals. They brought her to my attention. But even before they came into it, what happened was, there was an interview on UNIFYD TV, and one of the hosts of the interview was speaking about this technology. My family was watching the interview, and they said, let's go try it. So there was a center in Verona, New Jersey at the time. 2 years ago, there were 19 to 20 centers around the world. So one of them were in Verona, New Jersey, about an hour and a half from my family's house in Long Island, New York. And basically, we sent my aunt to that center because she had a 13.5 centimeter cystic fibroid. And the doctors were saying, you got to remove, you got to this, it might be this. They scared the hell out of her. We sent her to this technology, and her own experience, not making claims in any way, but her own experience was in a period of 4 hours of sitting in this technology. After that, she was back to herself. She didn't have the pain anymore. Everything started shrinking. And today she's great. So at that point, it was still not enough for me, to be honest, because I said, maybe there's the power of thought and placebo. That's a part of that. How do I know that there's something with this technology that actually works objectively? Within a period of a day, a few days, whatever it was, my sister's dog, we found a 4 centimeter tumor in his neck. We sent him to the technology. He slept there with my aunt for a period of 3 nights consecutively. And 3 days later, it was gone. So at that point, I had to sit there and say, okay, it's a dog. I can't say placebo anymore in animals. There's something else going on here. So that's when I started looking deeper into it. That's when my friends that I work with came to me and they said, you got to interview this woman. I went to meet her for the first time. She lives in Las Vegas. I interviewed her informally with my cameras, no team, no production, no nothing. And I put that interview out on May 27, 2022. The next day, there were like 70,000 emails that came in from people saying, we want to bring this technology to the world. We want to open centers all around the world. And that's when I started UNIFYD Healing as a vehicle to help raise awareness and market for these centers that we're going to be opening. So today we have hundreds of centers, and EE System is doing great work. UNIFYD Healing is doing great work. And the center owners that stepped up to make this happen are really the reason why it's all happening and it's successful in the first place.
That's unbelievable. And I think it's so funny that this inventor, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, lives in the city of lights, because the technology that she's using to heal people is essentially light, right? Light frequency. So can you break down what the Energy Enhancement System is?
Yeah, I can do it in the form of a layperson. I'm not a quantum physicist by any means. But to truly, truly simplify it, it's based on many things. One of the things that I like going to is the law of synchronization with your environment. So the environment that you're in is the environment that you'll synchronize with. If you put yourself in an energetically distorted environment, you're going to experience energetic distortion or disease in the body. And if you put yourself in energetic coherent environments, you'll synchronize with energetic coherency, which is also known as health. So the reason why you see so many people in the world today that are just experiencing so much disease is because we're constantly distorting the energetic frequencies and fields of our planet as a whole. That's using technology, using drugs, using many different things, pollutants, toxins, and so on and so forth. So what this technology does is it rebalances using the creation of a toroidal field. This is where scalar energy and scalar technology comes into play. But in short, it's creating a toroidal field, a balanced field of energy for your body to synchronize with. And on the other side of the equation, if you look at the technology, you'll also see a screen with lights. It's using light as a form of therapy to help the body rebalance itself. So think red light therapy, blue light therapy, all those different wavelengths that they would use to help the body rebalance itself. This technology uses a wide range of that spectrum, from 360 to 720 nanometers, which is just red all the way to violet, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And on both fronts, it's working on the energetic side and the physical side. And that's why we're seeing the testimonials that we're seeing all around the world.
It's pretty remarkable. And the woman, I'm hoping one day to interview her, because you can't really, you said that brilliantly as a layperson, by the way. That's like, that is an expert layperson.
I will set up a podcast right after this one so you can go and do an interview with her so she can get into the details.
Okay, great. The scalar wave, I heard her talk about it. It's to release anything that is a distortion in your body, to remove anything that is basically keeping you and your cells in this brilliant biology from remembering the divine, whole, perfect system that you are, right?
Totally.
And there's like a Fibonacci sequence the woman is brilliant.
Yeah, so I can go, again, we can go deeper into it.
I'll go deep. I'm so fascinated because, like you said, spirituality and science is the same thing. There's this mathematical language of the universe, and she seems to have captured that and put it into this brilliant machine. And you can kind of I can describe my experience. there can be like 8, 12, 24 screens, maybe 48 is the most powerful system in a public setting, I think, at this point. But the more screens, the more powerful the technology, I would imagine.
Correct. It creates a stronger field,
Okay.
energetically speaking, for your body to synchronize with. So yes, it is more powerful. In short, and maybe it won't be too short, but I'll explain a few sides of it. So there's two sides to the technology. There's what they call the engine field generator. It looks like a black box. And then there's the monitor, the screen that's emitting light. So we'll do one, then we'll do the other. First and foremost, the black box, the engine field generator, is responsible for rebalancing the energetic intangible side of you, because everything physical is made up of energy. So we need to take that into account when rebalancing ourselves. We're not just physical vessels and we're not just energetic vessels. We're both. We're an expression of both. So the black box will rebalance, the engine field generator will rebalance the energetic side, the spiritual side, the non-physical side, whatever term you want to give that side. The screen will rebalance the physical side within the spectrum of light, anything physical. So with the engine field generator, that's what's responsible for creating your toroidal field. How do you create a toroidal field? The answer is very simple. You have to take two identical electromagnetic fields. You have to align them precisely, and their merging point will create a toroidal field. What Dr. Sandra Rose Michael did is she said, okay, 2 points is great, but 4 points is better. It's more stable. And if you add even more points than that, it becomes even more stable. So 2-point toroidal theory is based on two electromagnetic fields aligned precisely to create and access that toroidal field, which is a perfect, whole, coherent, balanced, and harmonious electromagnetic field. In this case, they're using 4 points to do that, to create that toroidal field. Again, the law of synchronization, you put yourself in an energetically coherent environment, you will synchronize with energetic coherence, and from there, you will see health as opposed to disease. That's why people are experiencing the results that they are. But on the other side of the spectrum, we're also physical. So you need to use physical means to impact physical things as well in this case. Of course, energetic means will impact the physical because it's all connected. But there are certain physical things that you can do with frequencies within the spectrum to rebalance the actual physical body. Yeah. So the way that works is also pretty simple. I won't say very simple because it takes some memory. And there are many more things than what I'm going to explain here. I'm just giving you a few points that are important to keep in mind. So the Fibonacci sequence, you brought that up. Well, the Fibonacci sequence is something that's seen in nature. It's something that was not created by man. It was discovered by man. It's something that represents a whole, coherent, and perfect creation, because all of creation literally has the Fibonacci sequence one way or another, anywhere from the spiral of a hurricane and its mathematical proportions all the way to a pine cone or a flower or a lotus or whatever it may be. It's all based on the Fibonacci sequence. It's a certain form of proportions and ratios. Some call it the golden mean and the golden ratio that you see in nature. Now, if we know that the law of synchronization with our environment tells us that putting yourself in an environment will help you synchronize with environment X, then if we can bring the Fibonacci sequence back into our lives once again, because we're so far removed from it, talking on computers, talking on iPhones and Androids, and living in a world that's no longer natural. If we were living in the natural world, the Fibonacci sequence is something that's around us all the time. When we're not, we need to recreate it to come back into alignment with it. So when you look at the screen, you're going to see different movements, up, down, different speeds. Without going too into detail, and this could be a question for Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, if you want the real in-depth details as well, the movement of light on that screen and the speed at which that light moves at is in alignment with the Fibonacci sequence. And that's how the technology helps you reacquaint itself and bring itself back into alignment and synchronization with the Fibonacci sequence. The second factor of what the screen is doing, of many, but I'm just going to explain 3 today, is called photonic collision. That's just a big word to say the collision of light. So light is made up of photons, just like water is made up of droplets of water. A water stream, a hose, you see it as one continuous stream. It's really just a bunch of droplets of water combined. So think of that visualization, just to make it easy to understand, when talking about light. When you turn a flashlight on, there are photons that make one bright spotlight, but it's photons of light that allow that to happen. When you're looking at the screen, you're seeing one continuous emission of light coming out of that screen, but it's actually individual photons of light. So when you have aligned precision, which is how this technology is set up in a room, these screens are facing each other perfectly. The photons are colliding. The light is colliding. It creates an implosion, which emits a charge. And that charge is what is needed for your cells to recharge themselves, because your cells are electrical. They have a millivoltage to them. When they're electrically deficient, you experience things like disease. And when they have sufficient electricity, energy can move, you experience health, as opposed to dis-ease. A dis-ease of flow, a dis-ease of light, a dis-ease of energy moving through the body, which can be expressed in many different ways. So the photonic collision creates a charge in the environment that your body, your cells in this case, will synchronize with, and therefore increase their charge. The last part of it that I'll bring up is called polychromatic light therapy. So again, think red light therapy, blue light therapy. It's using polychromatic, just means many different colors, multiple different colors on the spectrum of light: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And it's taking polychromatic light, multiple different wavelengths of light, and allowing your body, your DNA in this case, to absorb that, because the primary function of DNA is the absorption of light. So when you give your body coherent light, it will then express coherency. And when you give your body distorted light, it will express distortion. So that's how the color therapy side of it works. All in all, again, it has two sides of the spectrum. It's operating on both. It's helping your body rebalance itself. It's not doing it for you. So this technology doesn't heal you. That's the biggest thing that we really need to remember here. Your body heals itself. The question is, are you giving your body the proper resources, tools, and environment to do so? And if you are, your body can do incredible things. So that's a little more in-depth of how the technology works.
I love it, because I feel like we're in this, horrific state of health in this country specifically, and the rest of the world as well, just with modern society and conveniences and chemicals and comforts and all these things that we thought were making our life better. It's actually making our health worse. And it's because we've become so disconnected from nature, and all these technologies that are not very consciously made. They're just made for one purpose. They're distorting our fields and our, the way that we function in our health. And I just had a conversation the other day, is we are now with conscious inventors and people, there's an opportunity here. Technology is amazing. I mean, there's so many wonderful things we can do for efficiency and everything else. And there's got to be a way where we bridge consciousness and technology, so we create not harmful technologies, but, coherence enhancing technologies.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what this represents. It's taking the mathematical language of nature through technology and creating a field and an environment that to enhance health, that that we've been removed from that natural environment, and now you're kind of, through technology, creating a hyper concentrated version of that environment. It's so cool.
100%. That's exactly how it works. And we have a lot of power too, to be able to do that ourselves. Ultimately, the goal is to bring the human body and our environment to a point where it never needs anything again to do what it already does itself. But in the world that we're living in right now, we need some stepping stones along the way. And that's where this technology comes in. That's what the EES system is all about.
And then afterwards, you take like a detox bath, because I assume once you get your body and you're starting to charge your cells and get everything back online the way nature intended, there's going to be some waste and some stuff you need to expel. So you get into a detox mineral bath, correct? And that just kind of pulls out everything that was in there, getting in the way.
Anything but Epsom salt is good. Not because Epsom salt is bad, but because our water supply is a little poisoned today. Epsom salt has magnesium in it, and magnesium will actually bring things into the body. That's the purpose of Epsom salt. They put essential oils in it so your body can absorb it. That's not a problem. The problem is if your water has chlorine, fluoride, birth control pill residue, because of how our water system is built today, and all the toxicities and toxins in them, then you're actually bringing in more toxins as opposed to letting them out. So that's the reason why anything but Epsom salt. But think about it like this. Imagine you had phlegm coming up, and instead of spitting it out, you're going to swallow it. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You want to spit it out. You want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the technology. The technology is bringing up the toxins to the surface. The salt bath will catalyze the process of taking it out. For anybody that asks, why can't I just go to the ocean? You can, but the difference between the ocean and the salt bath is the temperature of the water. So the ocean is not 102 degrees. A salt bath is. And when you put yourself in water at that temperature, your pores will open. It will catalyze the detoxification process. But the ocean's amazing too. So you do all of it. But the purpose of a salt bath, it's to let everything go as all the toxins kind of come to the surface.
Perfect. It all makes sense to me. I've only gone once for 1 2-hour session. And I know that I reached out to you at one point. I was like, I've got a person with cancer and a person with ALS. Like, how do we know the prescription of what each condition or person needs as far as like time in the system?
Yeah. So prescription is an illusion sold to you by Big Pharma.
Sorry. Bad term, bad word.
No. I'm saying even the idea.
Okay.
There's no such thing as that, something that works for everybody the same way.
Right.
Even if it's a pill that they tell me legally will cure this, it doesn't mean that it will do that for me in the same way it does it for you. It means that legally speaking, they were allowed to sell it that way. And that's the problem. We believe what we see on a label, so we've been brainwashed to think in that way. So the answer is we can go according to statistics. We can go according to what people are sharing with certain ailments in their own testimonials and their own, we call it a conditions improvement form. So people fill out a certain form, and that way it gives us somewhat forms of data to be able to understand statistics across the board. But it changes based on every single ailment. It changes based on everything, your age. Are you a woman? Are you a man? Believe it or not, it changes. Everything changes across the board. So that's actually something that we're actually extrapolating, if you want to call it that, with data to understand that and analyze that and assess that. What I can tell you is across the board, regardless of an ailment, okay, regardless of what it is, across the board, people are seeing improvements after 10 hours, and people are seeing, for anybody who did report 100% better and overcame their issue, about 14 hours. But if you go to somewhere like cancer, those people are reporting closer to 200 to 300 hours. So they're outliers based on the ailments that we're talking about. What I would say is have a 20-hour base, do that consecutively throughout a period of 30 days, and test something so you can see the difference before and after. It may be your live blood analysis. If you have diabetes, it may be certain markers in your blood. If you have a tumor, it may be certain tumor markers. It all depends on what you're dealing with to be able to understand, did it make a change whether I feel it or not? And you're not necessarily going to feel if your blood is less clumped together and more coherent, but you will see that on a live blood analysis. So it really is case by case. And I would always say consistency is key. So if you go once for 4 hours and it's like, well, nothing happened, my question would be, if you go to the gym once, are you going to have a six-pack? No. But if you go to the gym an hour, 4 times a week for 2 months, you're going to see results. Mm-hmm. So it's all about consistency as well. We can't just expect this like magic thing to do magic. Now, some people have miracle stories, but to set expectations, I would say you want to be consistent for 1 to 2 months. Do test before and after, and be realistic, and see where it takes you. If it took you 20 years to manifest an ailment, you really think it's going to go away in 4 hours? It takes time.
Yeah. And like you said, chronic illness develops over time. And then someone, as you're saying, 200 to 300 hours, I don't have that. Well, it's just a matter of shifting that mindset. Like, you do whatever it takes, whether it's 2 hours for 100 days.
It's 10 days if you do it consecutively.
Yeah.
You do it, it's 40 days if you do it a quarter of that. So it's not that long.
Yeah.
It's really not that long. And it's funny because the same people that would be worried about that spend thousands of hours eating the food that they ate to get them to the position in the first place.
Right.
So it's just a matter of changing mindset.
And you can sleep in some of these centers. You could sleep overnight with these systems.
That's my favorite thing to do, because I have a lot of things that I do throughout the day. And if you tell me to do something else, I'm probably not going to do it. So if I can get something done while I'm sleeping and kill 2 birds in 1 stone, no extra effort, I'm all in. So I personally like the overnights the best, and many centers around the world offer them.
And do you have a system in your house?
I have a smaller system in my house because the bigger ones are very big.
Yeah.
My family has a system. I'm at my family's home right now in New York. They have a system. They have a center, actually, about 10 minutes away from here. So they have a 24 unit system right there where we go. Anytime I feel depleted, I go sleep there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And in prep, I saw an interview that you did with Dr. Sandra Rose, and you talked about biological age kind of reversal, or so
Yes.
is there like, I know you haven't been in business that long for collecting data, but is there like, does it stop, or can I just shave three years off every, like, can I keep going aging backwards? What are you witnessing there?
We have a center owner who shaved 23 years off based on testing that she's showing. We're doing a test right now that EES System is helping put together. I forgot how many subjects it is, but it's based in California, and it's a 6-month test on telomere length.
Yeah.
So just the woman who did it herself reversed from, based on her telomeres, from 54 to 31, if I'm not mistaken, years old. So now we're going to see what happens on a larger sample size across the board. We should have that data in a few months.
I want to be part of that trial. Also, I have to imagine that as if you age backwards for a woman, or you shave off, you start to increase vitality and your biological age goes down. I imagine that would increase fertility as well.
Everything.
Everything.
There are people that believe it or not, my hair, I just shave it. I take it off, but my hair started growing back. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to take it off. But it started growing back, and people were looking there like, you have more hair. I'm like, yeah, I don't like hair on my head. I'm going to take it off.
I'm going to pick it. But that's exciting. Yeah, that's amazing.
Many people have, it all depends on your body and its own, priority list. So some people will go for one reason and something else happens completely. I see people going in for a specific ailment or disease, and suddenly their back pain goes away. They don't need knee surgery anymore. Their eyesight gets better. I hear it all the time. It happens over and over again.
It's amazing. I wanted to just mention, I think Joe Dispenza taught me this, but about Harold Saxton Burr was the Yale researcher who was testing mice and with uterine cancer, and then he realized that the uterine cancer around the tumor emitted a field. And then, but after he was done with his research, he realized that it actually wasn't the tumor emitting a field. The field was creating an environment where the tumor could grow. So he could test mice that had not yet developed uterine cancer tumors, but they had the field signature that the other mice who had it. So he knew that they would develop it at some point. So just when you speak about this toroidal field that you guys are creating with the 4 machine, it just makes so much sense. You're creating this coherent field where those things can no longer exist logically.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because the environment is the biggest factor over here. So a lot of people, you have cancer and people say, well, how can I kill the cancer? You shouldn't be focusing on how you kill it. You should be focusing on how you change the environment to not allow it to exist in the first place. So we've been focusing on the disease like it's a problem. The disease is not a problem. The disease is the effect of a cause, and the cause is your environment. So a few little pointers here, 3 different factors that you can look at: cellular charge, pH, and oxygen levels in your blood. Those 3 things are different ways to measure your environment to see what will happen next. If you have a low cellular charge, you're creating an environment that allows for disease. Whether that disease is heart disease, whether it's diabetes, whether it's depression, whether it's cancer, it doesn't matter. It's an energetic imbalance. So low cellular charge, disease; high cellular charge, health. pH, neutral is 7.2 to 7.4. Low is called acidic. You take any person, whether they're dealing with extreme depression or cancer, they will always have an acidic environment in their body. That's why you want to alkalize that environment to re-optimize their pH. So low pH, just like low cellular charge, low pH creates an environment that will always lead to disease. And optimized pH creates an environment that will lead to health because it's balanced. And oxygen level is no different. There was a doctor about 100 years ago. His name is Dr. Otto Warburg. And he won the Nobel Prize for proving that when you deprive a single cell of 35% of its oxygen for 48 hours, that cell becomes cancerous. That means that cancer thrives in oxygen-deprived environments. That means that cancer cannot exist in oxygen-rich environments. So low oxygen levels in your blood, disease. High oxygen levels in your blood, health. So to recap, cellular charge, which is measured in millivolts, cellular charge, pH, and oxygen levels, low on either side, you're creating an environment that will lead to disease. High or optimized on either side, you're creating an environment that renders health. And the way to check that is simple. Forget about cellular charge because it's a little harder to check. If you want a very simple way to check, you just need to know one of those things to know the other two because they're reflections of each other. A pH strip costs 1 penny, 1 penny, 2 pennies. An oximeter to check the oxygen levels in your blood costs $14 on Amazon. If you know one of them, if your pH is acidic, you know you have low oxygen and you know you have a deficient charge in your cells. If your oxygen levels are deficient, you know you have an acidic pH and you know that your cells are electrically deficient and vice versa.
So what are some, I mean, is it just like breath work, like holotropic breath work increase your oxygen, or do you start with the alkalinity because that's easier done through foods and water? Like what are your strategies there?
I would do all of the above. And as a matter of fact, all of the above are part of the protocols with the EE system. So the EE system technology is based off everything that I just said. And it will re-optimize each one of those points just by sitting with that technology because of how it's built and how it works. But you can't just walk in and expect magic to happen. You leave, go eat McDonald's and drink Coca-Cola. You go in there, but you're going to have to change the amount of water that you're drinking. It's wise to put lemon in that water to alkalize the body. Although lemon is acidic, it changes the environment of the body into a more alkaline pH. It has an inverse effect. You want to do meditation, you want to do breath work, and you want to change the way that you eat to more holistic and whole foods that are raw and not manipulated with. And if you can do that, you're actually bringing in more light into the body. So when you do things like that, again, the EE system is your base. The protocols are supporting that base. You always want to change the way that you eat to eat better, whether you're using the system or not. You always want to drink more water. You always want to breathe more. And yes, things as simple as breath work, which is open to everybody, will change absolutely everything for you. It will re-optimize the oxygen levels in your body.
Amazing. I see your shirt there says pyramid, and you mentioned the pyramid code when I was doing my research. I'm like very intrigued. My friends just went to Egypt. I'm like all about the Mayan civilization and their Teotihuacan and the pyramids. So talk to me about the pyramid code. Let's get weird.
Yeah, we'll get weird. It's something that I think everybody needs to read if they want to learn more about it. I had to read it myself. It was given to me. I did not write that thing. It was given to me in Hebrew, in very high Hebrew, and needed to be translated to English for me to understand it. I understood a little bit in the Hebrew, but not to that level. Today, it's translated into 10 different languages, by the way, and it's open for everybody, whoever wants to download it on my website. So what is it about? It's speaking about, and this is where it gets a little weird, but it's speaking about a memory that somebody had because they have a memory from living in those times. This is where reincarnation will come in, of what happened in the times of ancient Egypt in detail. So it speaks about who built the pyramids, how they built the pyramids, where they came from, why they did it, who was involved, what the purpose of them were, what technologies they used to do that. And there's so many details that I don't even remember off the top of my head, but it's fascinating. And really, if you look at the story that we're told in school versus the story that we see painted on the walls of the pyramids and carved into the walls of the pyramids, which one makes more sense? Probably the ones that they showed us from thousands of years ago. And many people find a lot of evidence. Forget about reincarnation. There's a lot of evidence showing that all of those things are true. I mean, look at the pharaohs at the time. Look at the Egyptians and how they drew themselves. They didn't look human. They resembled humans. Their skulls were much longer on the back. They found some of those skulls. That's not a Homo sapien. That's something else. So it's really speaking about who built them, why they built them, where they came from, how they built them, and who was involved, the technologies involved, and how that all applies to modern day today. Because in many cases, those technologies in the past used for good purposes today are used for not so great purposes.
Interesting. Oh, so cool. All right. Can you share a few of the your favorite healing stories, or I know that the EES is not healing us, but examples of people who have used the technology, put in the hours, and the shifts in their health, like a couple of your favorite stories?
Yeah. My favorite ones have to do with dogs.
Ah,
because number one, I love animals, and number two, you just can't make that up. You
yeah.
can't make it up. And I've seen it across the board. There was this one dog here in New York. I forgot his name, but I have the video. It's actually on UNIFYDhealing.com. When you go to the testimonial section, you can watch, there are hundreds and thousands of videos of real people sharing their testimonials who sent them in organically, authentically on whatever phone they recorded on. But there was this one dog, and he had this problem. It was a very long name, the name of the disease, but I know that it was incurable. A problem with his two hind legs where he couldn't really walk. He was kind of dragging himself. Doctor said it was incurable, can't do anything about it. It is what it is. He spent, I believe it was 10 hours in the Mount Kisco location. Now it's somewhere near Mount Kisco because she moved locations, but here in New York. And within like a month, he didn't change his diet. They didn't, start doing all these protocols. He just went and he left. And that was one of my favorites because something that was incurable, the dog is running and in great shape right now. So
Wow.
that's definitely one of them. One of the funnier ones is I was watching a video. It's also on UNIFYDhealing.com on one of the testimonials. There was a veteran. He's like 80 something years old. And I swear these are the words that came into his mouth, out of his mouth. He's like, I can have an erection again. He's like, I don't need to use Viagra anymore.
Pausing the podcast and writing down.
That was good. That was one of my favorite ones.
That's
Where it was
amazing.
funny, but there are people with stage 4 of certain ailments, and they're stable now, and they're in remission, and they're gone, and their doctors don't know what to say. They don't know what to say. There was another guy that I just shared on the last video I did with testimonials on my YouTube channel. He had diabetes, and he was 100 and something pounds overweight. And he was using the technology for a year at his nearest center. I believe he was doing 2 hours a week for 52 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. 52 weeks later, he reported he lost over 100 pounds, no longer has diabetes.
Wow. It's amazing.
So cool stuff.
And you touched a little bit upon like nonverbal autistic children and how there's some remarkable reversals, and like one kid just went up to the screens and just like put his forehead on the screens, and then another
that's something you got to ask Dr. Sandra.
Okay.
She had those experiences herself, and I want to save that story for her because we are children that are nonverbal that are able to, start reciting their ABCs, which is a big deal for children like that.
Yeah.
It changes a lot.
It changes the whole family dynamic and just like allows them to exhale. Exactly. So cool. How did you, you said kind of in passing that you left the family business, this like real estate business, and you were expected to take it over. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to break away from the family expectation and perhaps kind of financial security, et cetera. How did you have like a spiritual awakening? What led you to kind of want to follow this path?
Yeah, I definitely had an awakening, if you want to call it that. Let go of all my friends, started reading a bunch of books, and just changed everything around me. Because again, like, number one, I'm young now, and I was definitely young then. And I was living my life like every other kid my age. I was 15, 16, 17, 18, going out, partying, doing all those things. And there just came a point where it actually happened with a series of injuries that came my way that caused me to see certain things. I was in the hospital on and off for 4 years, dislocated my left shoulder 23 times. I got 3 shoulder surgeries. I almost needed a mechanical shoulder by age 18. And I got a staph infection in my leg that almost caused it to have to be amputated, and it almost caused me to die. So the combination of all those things kind of caused me to say, okay, what's going on here? What do I need to look at? And not why is this happening to me, but how is this happening for me? And that's when I started seeing a change in things need to be done differently. And I was working in the family business for 5 years, and I got up to vice president, and I was about to take over completely. But I really, the money was great. I didn't care about it. I didn't care about it because so now you're a billionaire. Now what? Like, what are you doing? What do you like? You're going to Hawaii? You have a yacht? What are you actually doing? How are you being with everybody else? So I guess in short, it didn't really fulfill me because yes, the money's good, great, all great, but that's not kind of where it ends for me. money's a great thing, right? Yeah, I believe in being comfortable and like not living in poverty. Definitely be comfortable, take care of yourself and do what you got to do, but take care of yourself so you can also take care of others. So I don't know, buying and selling buildings didn't really do it for me, and I just didn't care much. So I made that hard decision. I had faith that we could grow this into something really big that ultimately would allow for people to be able to live better lives as well. So listen, it's that one decision that it changed a lot of people's lives.
It's amazing. It's really incredible. How are can people still open EES system center?
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody wants to open up a center with an energy enhancement system, they can go to our website at UNIFYDhealing.com. If anybody wants to buy things like medallions, I always have it in front of me over here. This goes out a few feet as well. This is one of their technologies, and they basically embed a piece of the technology, the scalar field, into different stones. So if anybody wants to get their products, whether it's they call these medallions, whether it's bracelets, or whether it's a system for their own home, they can do that at eesystem.com. But yes, to answer your question, there are people opening every day. UNIFYDhealing.com is where you can apply. There is a vetting process. We don't approve everybody. We don't want people who are only business people. We want people who know how to run a business and want to do things the right way. And if you can fit certain criteria, we approve you. You get the technology. You open up your center. God bless you. And I do the work of bringing awareness and people to the center.
Amazing. And is that what you primarily focused on now, or is that kind of a well-oiled machine and you're excited about something else? And like the media side, like what are you most turned on about now?
I would say it's 50-50. It was everything that I was focusing on for a period of time. You always need to do that to build something up. Today, I have a great team behind me working the whole thing. So I am still a part of it, but much less than I was in terms of day-to-day, detailed sort of logistical sort of things. So we have people in place for all those things. And now I get to do these podcasts and bring more awareness in this way. But the other side is UNIFYD TV. So I'm working on both of those. And it's a lot. But I'm on vacation for a month. I need it. So come back and start all over again.
Well, enjoy. I'm so glad you were able to come on and make time for me. And because I do believe that the EES is really incredible for healing potential, and I want to help spread that word, obviously, too. And 440 centers around the world. I mean, there's one near everybody, I would imagine. So thank you so much, and we'll have all the links and everything in the show notes. But yeah, so where's the best place for people to find you? Like your YouTube channel, Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on website? Instagram. I'm on, basically, if you just type in my name, Jason Shurka, on Google, it will show you my YouTube, it will show you my Instagram. I would assume that, many other links would come up as well. But yeah, YouTube, Instagram, that's where you can connect with me publicly. And my website is jasonshurka.com.
Awesome. And real quick, because I'm inspired to ask, I just feel like you have a wide breadth of knowledge and spiritual exploration. What is one piece of advice or something you've learned recently that really moved you that you want to share before we sign off?
I'll say a few things that I think they helped me a lot move forward. If you're meant to do something, it's going to happen. However, if you think it's going to happen without you taking action, then you're limiting your own destiny. So a homeless person may have a destiny to be a billionaire. If that homeless person doesn't look for a job, they're not taking action to get there. So my motto is do your best, let God do the rest. That's all we can do. You can't control everything, but you can do your absolute best. And if you are doing your best and it's in your destiny to achieve something specifically, you will achieve that thing.
And briefly, what do you think is the difference between people who heal or don't heal? Is it a destiny thing, life path? Is it a victim consciousness? Is it obviously there's a plethora, but what is your sense?
I think
people that could do everything right and they still don't heal. What's that about?
Well, everything right it would need to be defined. I have somebody in my family where he thinks he's doing everything right, but he's forgetting about the emotional side. So I personally see life as follows. if you have something that's happening to you, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So your cancer is happening for you. Your bankruptcy is happening for you. Your divorce is happening for you. The person that pissed you off yesterday is happening for you. The friend that did something to you that's not right is happening for you. All those things are trying to show you something. In my opinion, at the root of it all, and there are many different factors here, but at the root of it all, I could have a problem with my knee, and I could be doing everything right physically, seeing the best doctors in the world. If I don't learn the lesson that that knee problem is teaching me, then I'm not going to overcome it. Because if you're trying to give me something and I'm not receiving it, you're going to continue trying to give it to me. But if you give me something and I take it and I realize it in my hands, you don't have to give me that thing again. Next time, you'll give me something else. So that's why there are a lot of repetitive themes in the world of our own individual lives. Some people may be 70, 80, but they're really 20, spiritually speaking, on a certain aspect of their lives. That's why we have those consistent themes repeating, because we didn't pass the test, we didn't receive the gift, so it keeps happening over and over and over again. And that's what I would say. If you don't learn the lesson, you're going to be given that lesson again. If you don't receive the gift, God will give it to you all over again. And if you do, you'll move on to the next step.
I love it. And I totally agree. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your vacation. And we'll talk soon, I hope.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.